Reddish.
Hello and welcome back to a brand new Pick a Side live reaction. We are here after the conclusion of two game threes. The Timberwolves beat the Warriors and the Celtics beat the Knicks. Fellas, how are we doing tonight?
For all the fans who say I only show up when my team won, I'm here. They lost.
Finally.
Yeah. No, it's a Saturday night, so I'm in the house. But look, we got another night of good hoops. That's exactly what we wanted. I thought Warriors and Timberwolves was a great game for the most part. Unfortunately, we didn't get that from the Knicks and Celtics game, but we've been getting pretty elite basketball for about 3 to 4 weeks now. So we can, afford some stinkers here and there. But I'm excited to talk hoops and be with my brothers, man.
Yeah, everything Riv said, I emphasize.
We were due. We were due. We were due, baby. Cavs and Celtics, baby. We were due.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We were due.
We were due, man.
So what games do you guys want to start with first, or what game do you want to start with first?
I have a question. I do have a question because I posted this poll and I wanted to get you guys' opinion on it. I posted this poll and I was like, who's been better in the playoffs so far? Has it been SGA or has it been Tatum? Because I've seen a lot of nasty ass Tatum propaganda. And with all due respect, I get it. Tatum is the easy guy to kind of joke on, and them shits do be funny. I'm not gonna sit here and act like they're not. But on the other hand, like SGA also has been playing at this lights out level. Like if we look at just the first round, I think we can all agree for the most part Tatum was pretty elite against Orlando. Granted, Orlando's offense is dog shit, but their defense is pretty amazing. It's a stout defensive unit. And SGA, I would say, for the two games in Memphis was solid. For the games in OKC, it was opposite. Whichever one it was like 2 games he played good, 2 games he didn't. What do you guys think genuinely? Like, if we just remove all the biases and whatnot, who's been better in this postseason so far, SGA or Tatum?
It's the battle of mid. They both haven't been that good. Tatum had a better 3-game stretch than SGA. So far in this Knicks series, has he had a good game? I don't think so.
Today would have been his quote unquote good game, and it wasn't that good.
And it was 17 points. I think SGA, he at least had one great game against Denver. It was game 2.
Did he have 20 tonight?
Tatum? Garbage time buckets, sorry.
Yeah, we take that, by the way.
Yeah,
20 points, we're not giving you that, respectfully.
He had
22, first of all.
Below his average.
He had 17 points. Before the garbage time buckets, he had 17.
Let's be honest, this whole game was garbage time.
You're not wrong. But I think it's pretty close. I really can't lean one way. They both have been pretty bad.
Yeah, I mean, I can't emphatically say one guy over the other. Tatum against Orlando, like you said, Riv, those 3 games, 30 plus in all 3. And round 2, Shea has that one super elite game, when they win by damn near 50 points in game 2, but then in game 1 and in game 3, especially in game 3, that was a super winnable game and he didn't come up. But you could say the same thing about Tatum in game 1 and in game 2. Those were 2 super winnable, not even winnable, should have won games and didn't show up at all down the stretch, didn't show up really throughout the game. So I think both of these guys are really struggling, but Tatum gets all the shit. It's fine. We're used to it at this point. Shea, I don't know if it's because he doesn't have the expectations for whatever reason, or people don't think the Thunder and Celtics should be viewed or have the same expectations. I don't know. But, Shea just gets a pass. And Tatum's gonna go here, and he's the LeBron James of Paul George's, and Shea's just Kobe and just the best player of all time. So it is what it is,
Shea is not getting a pass.
I don't see anything about Shea. Maybe it's just my
really.
Who knows?
You don't see anything about Shea?
Nothing.
I've been seeing some funny jokes.
That's wild.
Hey, Dels, let me ask you a question, Dels. When they gonna start putting D-Mitch in these conversations, man? Like
which conversations?
The best in the league conversation.
Well, I mean, he's having maybe the best playoffs out of everybody.
When they going to just say fuck what the regular season is? Look what this man does when it's time to play postseason basketball. Like, it's just, he's different, man. He's a special talent, man.
I think if they would have won game 2, the conversations would be different. They're up 2-1. You win that game with Garland, Mobley, all these dudes out. You drop the 40 ball, damn near 50.
I needed game 2 more than I needed water.
Yeah, but no, I'm with you. He's been amazing.
After game 3, Shea got criticized heavily for how he handled the fourth quarter. And I think that he's gotten a lot of backlash for not passing J-Dub the ball when he had the hot hand. and I made a video about it on my TikTok about just the final possessions. And the top comment was that Shea is James Harden in the
Ooh,
playoffs.
damn, that's
Uh,
brutal.
in my ecosystem, I see a lot of Shea slander, and I read comments that are about Shea as well, and they're like, "I don't like this guy. He's unlikable," because he smiled after the game when they
He
lost.
did.
Most
He
players
did.
do. Steph has done it. Ja's done it. LeBron did it a few times. Like players do that. Like you smile like, all right, bet, like cool, like I'm gonna remember this, and you come back and retaliate. Listen, I'll say this, man, coming from a Steph fan, a winner, 4-time champion, unanimous MVP, being compared to Harden sucks. I'll be honest, it's brutal. It's brutal. Being compared to a loser, it's tough. And a playoff choker. And I'm talking about the agenda. It's not my opinion, just what
No, no,
people have.
no.
No. I don't think that of that man. I think he's a phenomenal
One of
talent.
the best players of our
One of
generation.
the best players of our generation, one of the best players of all time.
Yeah.
But from what people have spoken about that man, just playoff choker, a loser, just doesn't show up when it matters. One of the worst playoff superstars of all time. Being compared to him, it's a tough conversation to be in. So SJ, you got to tighten up, my brother. You got to tighten up fast.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty easily Shea's the biggest game of his career coming up here tomorrow in Game 4. This is it right now. Biggest game of his career.
Yeah, he hasn't played in many big games. This is the
Not
one.
a ton. This is going to be every game is his biggest game of his career going forward.
Yes, correct.
That's what they said about Tatum coming into this game 3 against
that
the
was
Knicks.
nuts.
That felt a little crazy.
Down 0-2. I want to get Riv's opinion on this first.
So,
I thought that the Celtics should have came out and won this game. This game was what the first 2 games have been, minus the fourth quarter comebacks. Boston really dominated. They shot well from 3. Payne Pritchard had the best performance of anybody. And their defense was suffocating the Knicks offense. I don't think the Knicks have enough fluidity and rhythm in their offense. Riv,
hey,
plant your flag on the stance right now. Are the Celtics coming back and beating the Knicks in this series?
do I give a Riv answer or do I give a Joel answer? I think that's where I'm at with it.
You have to give a Joel answer.
I'm standing with Boston, man. Listen, they're the better team. I think they've shown that this series that they're the better team. I think New York has shown that they're the more resilient team. That they show that they have a little bit more composure. But Boston, to me, has shown that they're the better team. They have, through the first 2 games, dominated New York for like the first 3 quarters of the game. And then at every waking moment at the third quarter, it's always around like the 3-minute mark, the 4-minute mark, the 2-minute mark. New York just starts to make this resilient comeback, and they end up winning the fourth quarter. I thought this game, Boston really came out with a different mindset, a different attitude. They came out like this was a Game 7. And plus the 3-ball was there for them. And I think that's what's been important for them. Their process has never really changed, but I thought this game had changed a little bit in terms of just them being more aggressive at the rim, being able to take those open looks that I felt like in games 1 and 2 they didn't take. And I felt like at times where they settled for jumpers, they could have went to the rim. I thought Game 3 they changed that approach. And at times when they seen the rim, they went to it. Derek White, he felt like, to me, he wanted to set a tone to start a game. He was really aggressive. Payne Pritchard came out. He was really aggressive. Jaylen Brown was aggressive. And I think Tatum, Dels, you made a tweet about Tatum's defense and the rebounding, and I did laugh at first because Tatum and rebounding, it always has to come up. But he really has been an elite defender this series, and I thought he really set a tone this game. I think Boston still takes it. I think nothing has really changed for me. I think they're a better road team than a home team. That's weird to say, but that's what they are. I think they'll win the next game, and I think they'll get a little bit more composed and win Game 5. But I think Boston is the better team. I think they've shown that they're the better team. I think that they just had a couple choking moments, and New York has been a little bit more resilient. And I think that is important. I don't want to take away nothing that New York has done. They have been amazing in those third, fourth quarters. But for a full game sample size, New York hasn't really given us a clean game. And I think Boston, this game, has given us that clean game. And we saw in a clean game, quarters 1 through 4, Boston dominated New York. Their defense was great. They were able to hit the 3-ball. They put a lot more pressure on the rim. They were a lot better in their decision-making and stuff like that. So I'm still going with Boston, but I still think it's going to be 6 or 7. But I think New York, I want to give them a little bit more credit because I feel like coming into this series, we kind of thought this would be a 5-4 game wash because of the way that Boston handled them in the regular season. But you can't not like give credit to how resilient New York has been, how tough as nails they've been, and how they've been able to come back and win games. So I want to give them credit for that.
Yeah, I think Boston's done a really good job throughout the series, even when the shots haven't been falling, to play really great defense. This was the real first great Brunson game we got. You know, by his standards, he had 27 points, I want to believe. And in games 1 and game 2, he's had those clutch moments, right? In the fourth quarter, he's been one of, if not the biggest reason they've been able to pull out those first 2 games. But it had taken him, 2.5, 3 quarters. And I feel like even when he's getting those buckets, they've constantly been tough. Even when Al Horford gets switched onto him and he hits those threes, like Al Horford's in his face, and Drew Holiday. And I think Jaylen Brown getting that extra day's rest as well. You saw a little bit more explosiveness from him. I felt like he just had more lift in his jump shot, and then defensively was able to slide his feet a bit better. But I feel like they've been giving Jalen Brunson a really tough time this entire series, which is a big reason why this Knicks team hasn't been able to do much offensively. I believe they have 105 offensive rating so far through 3 games in this series. So they haven't really been able to generate consistent offense. Specifically in this game, it was I saw someone tweet, a Celtics fan, say this was the most uncomfortable 20-point win we've ever had. And that's what it felt like because, of course, the first 2 games, how those ended up going. But this game, it was just difficult for the Knicks to get really any sort of flow of offense. I felt like a lot of their buckets were offensive rebounds. They were putbacks. They were tough contested jumpers. They only hit 5 threes in this game. So I feel like all of the offense became really difficult. And that's what we saw in the first 2 games for like the first 3 quarters. And then that fourth quarter, I feel like the Celtics defense really let up in big part, though, due to their offense because they were taking a lot of threes, especially in game run, rushing a lot of threes. And then Knicks were able to get out in transition and get some different or get some good looks, I should say. I think the biggest difference, or I think there's 2 big things. Number one, obviously, the Celtics shot lights out. First 2 games, you go 25 for 100. That's insane. Game 3, you go 20 for 40. That's also insane. So you have 2 of these opposite ends of Boston being extremely, extremely cold and extremely, extremely hot, right? Tatum, who couldn't hit a 3 the first 2 games, starts this game 4 for 4. Peyton Pritchard has his best game probably of his career. I believe the most points for a Celtic bench player since Kevin McHale back in the 80s. He was sensational. Derek White was hitting his threes. Al Horford was finally hitting his open 3. So that's number one. But number 2, and I think maybe arguably more importantly, and Mazzulla mentioned this after the game in his press conference, was just how Boston was able to close quarters in this one is just so different than the first 2 quarters. If you go back to game 1, Knicks win in overtime 108-105. With 6 minutes left, 5 minutes, 30 seconds left in the third quarter, Boston is up by 17 points. And when you're up by 17, you have the ability to, can we go on a little run to end this quarter and be up 20, or are we going to let New York get back into it? By the end of the quarter, it's a 9-point game. You go from up 17 with 5 minutes and change to a 9-point game. And it's like, sure, you still, you're going to the fourth quarter with a lead, but New York starts building that momentum and they're feeling good to themselves going into that final period. And then the same thing in game 2. Boston is up 70-50 with 4 minutes left in the third quarter, and they go into the fourth up 12. So New York gets 8 points back, and they've been going on these mini runs in those first 2 games to close quarters that when you're going into the fourth, it's a big difference being up 17 or 20 compared to 9 or 12 points. The Knicks really feel like we have a shot. We string together a couple defensive stops. We had a couple threes. All of a sudden, it's a 1-possession game. But Boston did a really good job in this game, in game 3, being able to kind of, close that out. They went into the fourth quarter up 26, and they were going into halftime, I believe, up 20 points. So they were able to build onto that halftime lead. So I feel like that was big for them too, because a lot of it from New York has been momentum, and it's been energy, and it's been getting clutch shots and clutch stops during, in those biggest moments. And in this time, the Celtics weren't allowing it. Some of that comes from hitting your open shots and making the right read. Of course, Tatum, although not great offensively, a lot better than he was in those first 2 games. But it was a collective. Entering game 3, there was only one player on the Celtics shooting over 40% from the field. Not from 3, from the field. One person. It was Drew Holiday shooting 55%. No one else was about 40. So Tatum had to be better. But collectively, this whole team was super, super cold. They got back on track today. And you know where I'm going, Joel. I mean, you know where I'm taking in this series. I think, or they shoot 20 for 40 in game 4? No, but I have confidence they're not going to shoot 25% again. And I think this game is, this series going back to Boston too.
That's why I didn't ask you first, because I knew where your mind was at. I knew where your heart was at. I knew who you were going with. In the chat, we have Santos saying that he hears our echo, and I think it's coming from Riv because he doesn't have headphones on. So, Riv, when you talk, you just unmute yourself when you want to talk. Um, I think the Knicks have been outplayed for 98% of this series. I think the fourth quarters in game one and game two are what propelled them to victories. And they were great comebacks. And there are definitely schematical things as to why those things happened. I think Mitchell Robinson being one of the biggest reasons for that, the rebounding advantage, and just having closers and having 3-point barrages at the right time. Those things all help the Knicks. The most interesting fact of the playoffs right now is that home teams are 27-27 in the playoffs now. There is no advantage on the road versus at home. There is zero advantage right now playing in front of your home crowd. And I think there's a lot of theories as to why. I think the theory that I think makes the most sense is that travel is just so much easier now and so much more comfortable that players are able to maintain their routines even when they go on the road. And sometimes playing at home could be a little bit more pressure. You know, you look at the Knicks at MSG, you're playing in front of so many celebrities, so many people, so many passionate fans, and that should give you a boost. But for the Knicks all year long, it really hasn't. The nosebleed seats for this game were like $1,000 minimum. Like you want to get into the game, you got to pay $1,000 at minimum, and they witnessed a blowout. I think the Knicks got to clean up a lot of things offensively. I think defensively they've been fine. I think they need to start switching again, like they did in game two and game one. In game three, they didn't really switch all that much, and you need to make a drastic change. I think too often Mitchell Robinson is being hacked. And Boston feels comfortable with doing that because usually when Mitch is on the floor, a bench player is on the floor with him, and you rack up those fouls with Luke Cornett. It doesn't really matter all that much. I think Thibodeau has to seriously think about starting Mitchell Robinson in place of Josh Hart. I think Josh Hart is the heart and soul of the team, but for the betterment of this matchup, I think with Mitchell Robinson starting the game, you at least get a couple of minutes to start hot because I don't think Joe Mazzulla is going to foul right away and risk his starters getting into foul trouble just so you put Mitchell Robinson at the line. So you buy yourself maybe a half of a quarter of just a good rebounding. Cat not being so involved in the paint because I think that's limited his 3-point opportunities a lot in this series. He's not taking a high volume of threes. And then you have a screener for Jalen Brunson, a better screener, so he can get those switches onto the big man, onto Al Horford specifically. He can get those switches. So I think the Knicks overall, the rhythm offensively is just not good. And it's only been good for 2 quarters in this series. Outside of that, Boston has stifled it. So I think the Knicks have to come out with a better plan and a better approach. But overall, I think their defense is fine for the most part. As long as they switch things, you're going to live with tough shots. You know the Celtics are going to take a lot of threes. I think that's fine. But I think the biggest thing right now that's standing in the Knicks' way is the offense not being consistent, especially to begin the game. They're just not getting off to hot starts, and you're not going to beat Boston if you're down 15 to 20 points heading into the fourth quarter often. I think if that's going to be what the Knicks are going to do for the rest of the series, I think they're going to lose. You need to come back in game four in front of your home crowd and have a great performance. And I don't know if they're going to go up 3-1. I think this series does get tied 2-2 after game four, but I think it goes 7. I think the Knicks can still win this series. The Knicks just need 2 games. They need 2 games of elite level play. Only 2 more to win this series. I'm still going with the Knicks.
2 more. You heard him. 2 more.
They need 2 elite level games, but you haven't gotten any elite level games.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're going to get 1.
Hey,
and 2.
credit to Mitch Robinson has been dominant
Yes,
on the glass. He's been disrupting everything. The hacker Mitch thing is funny. A lot of teams are employing that where they're hacking top rebounders. You know, Golden State did that against Steven Adams. But Mitch has just been defensively great as a rim protector, even solid in switches. And on top of that, he's been disrupting the offensive glass. You know, he's been great in that end. I do like that idea you brought up, Joel, of just maybe starting both of them to give Cat some leeway on defense, and on top of that, you won't start fouling with your starting five. Yeah, New York just got to make a couple adjustments though, and I think they'll be fine. Game 4 is the most important game in Jalen Brunson's career. It is.
In
I
Cat's
do.
career. Well,
I
no,
do
it's
want.
not Cat's career actually.
Yeah,
Though.
I do want to.
Game
Cat
7.
probably
Game
but
7 last year.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And he
Game
was
7 last
huge.
year for sure. I do want to say people who keep talking about this is Tatum. That was the most important game of Tatum's career. I feel like that's the craziest shit that people are starting to make up because like this dude has played in like 4 or 5 ECFs. He's played in the finals. Like Game 4 in the finals when Steph had 40. That's probably the most important game of his life. Game 3, Game 5, Game 6. Like we can go on and on to like people who are saying that. I find that to be like this is when the jokes become. They don't make sense. Like I get the inefficient jokes; those make sense. The Tatum plays too pretty; those make sense. But the whole Game 3 against New York is the most important game of his life. I just feel like at this point now we're just trying to be funny because like he's been in so much more big time games. Like we just like come on.
I think from a standpoint of how much it would have hurt his reputation, you can make an argument for it.
His reputation's already in the gutter, even if he wins. Like, his
No
reputation.
matter what he does, Tatum
Yeah,
had
it's-
3 straight games in the first round, 30 plus. He has 2 bad
Yeah,
games. Now he's not top 10. You know,
So what,
so
what was
it's
the
a
last
big deal.
series that hurt his reputation? Going down 3-0 to the Heat and then losing in the ECF to an 8th seed?
I
Yeah,
feel like Dallas didn't really help his reputation because Jaylen Brown won Finals MVP.
true.
But
you
he
could say
still
that.
won. I think just from a reputation standpoint, I get it. If you lose to the Knicks, a team that you're heavily favored to, you go down 0-3. I get it. I mean, if he does lose this series, I think this series loss alone would do more harm to his reputation than any loss that he's had in his career.
Probably because the only other, like, I'm trying to think throughout, like, what have been real letdowns for the Celtics. I think of the 2023 Heat because they are the 8th seed and you go down 3-0. No one, even though the Heat, Jimmy Butler was great, no one was expecting them to get past Boston. They were big favorites.
And
The
the
Knicks would have
finals.
been probably number 1. But other than that, like, it's hard to find real, like, of course, going up against Golden State, you're up 2-1. I get it, right? That's a chance you should win. I think going in, the Celtics were slightly favored. Maybe they're like minus 150, 200. But they haven't really had, or Tatum hasn't really had a moment in his career that was like, holy shit, you just fucked up bad outside of the Heat. And the Heat is tough because Game 7, he rolls his ankle like the second play. And if he doesn't get hurt, who knows what happens.
Else, the Game 6 on the road against Philly before he started to go on a tear. That was gonna be
it.
it.
1
Like,
for 14, right?
Yeah, that was the game where it's like, all right, buddy, you're done.
But now you remember it as fourth quarter. He hits all the shots to win
Yep.
you the game. Then he drops 50 in Game 7, and you don't think twice about it.
Yeah, and then he won. Now we have a super chat from Freeholder33.
Harden choked, remember?
Y'all see Jalen upset at Al for flopping? How ironic.
Oh, Jalen Brunson, and yeah, that was funny. Joel, did you think you were gonna come back in this game too?
No.
You thought you like Boston's got this one?
Yeah, I just don't think it happens 3 times in a row. I kind of knew that after the first half, it wasn't the Knicks game. And I thought that the Celtics were going to win Game 3. They had to. I mean, you just can't go down 3 games to 0. So I kind of was pretty confident that Boston was going to bounce back in this game. Still very disappointed in how the Knicks played. OG Anunoby has had single digits over the last 2 games. I just feel like you need more from him offensively. You need more from Cat offensively. Really, outside of Brunson, you need more from everybody on offense to play their part. But yeah, I thought Boston was going to win today. But we'll see what happens Game 4. I think Game 4 we're going to get a great Knicks performance. And who knows, Dels? That's gonna
listen, man. You said in the past that MSG is not really a home court. You know, we know how great Boston plays on the road, so that's the situation. I've always thought Boston and Tatum and Brown feel better when they just are terrible and they have to kind of prove something. When everyone's on their side and they're at home, that's when, outside of last year when they lost, I think, 1 game at home during the playoffs, that was every other time they need some adversity for them to show up.
We just need another player that can generate 3-point shots for other players. I think a great player that I want the Knicks to target heavily in the offseason is Karis LeVert. I think Karis LeVert coming off the bench for the
You're a
Knicks.
big Karis LeVert guy.
Yeah, I think he can
Took him over Jalen
defend.
Green, right?
He has size. He's 6'6". He can defend. He can pass. He can shoot. So him off the bench, I think you need somebody like that just could threaten the defense and they could drive to the basket and that could dribble the ball and handle.
Mhm.
You know,
Like
they
you replace
forget.
him with Campaign,
Yeah, they
That's a big
forget that
upgrade.
Karis LeVert's 2 playoff series, he's averaged 20 points per game.
10 minutes be killing me, dude, because he be playing well. I'm just like, why are you in the court, bro? Like,
So the other game that happened was the Timberwolves beat the Warriors 102-97. The title says Timberwolves narrowly survive, and somebody in the chat was like, narrowly? That's disrespectful. But no, it was a pretty close game throughout the
It was for
entire
sure.
entire game. I'll say this. I was very impressed with Golden State and their performance. I thought their defense really made it tough on Minnesota. And this is one of those games that Minnesota won because they're the most talented team. They're more talented than them. But Golden State won all those like extra battles, the defensive battle, the IQ battle, the hustle battle. I thought they are just more disciplined and more well coached. And I thought the Timberwolves really let their foot off the gas for a lot of this game to the point that it got to the point that we thought maybe there was a chance that Golden State could upset them. Jimmy Butler kept getting switched on to Naz Reid and Julius Randle, and he would just beat them off the dribble. There was so many moments where I saw just wide open cuts to the basket, and Timberwolves defenders just didn't know what hit them. Dante DiVincenzo, he's become like such a liability on defense that he like really hurts their defense a lot. And there was so many instances in this game where Rudy Gobert was just saving what would have been easy buckets at the basket, like just his length, just making sure that those shots aren't going in. Jimmy Butler, for as great of a game as he had, finishing around the basket was very poor. A lot of those buckets you probably expect Jimmy to make. But with all that being said, Jimmy still finished with 33 points and 7 assists. I thought he really played well. And then Jonathan Kuminga, this was the best game of his career, arguably 30 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists. I thought what he brought his energy was infectious, and Jimmy Butler and him were doing most of the work on offense. But this game came down to the second half. It came down to Anthony Edwards scoring 28 points in the second half after starting off very slow in the first half. And it came down to Julius Randle having his first playoff career triple-double, 24, 10, and 12. And I thought he got the better of the Draymond matchup. Draymond, in theory, is a great defender on Randle, and I think he's done a good job for most of the series. But in this particular game, Julius Randle was really bullying him and beating him to the spot and really getting anywhere he wanted on the court. And then Gobert, he didn't play over 30 minutes in this game, but his impact when he was there on the glass and just defensively was really felt. I think Minnesota, they need to get more from their role players. I don't think that Dante or Nickeil Alexander-Walker have played all that well in the playoffs thus far. They need to get more from them, but it's back-to-back performances where they're shooting well from three. Today they shot 38%. So I think Minnesota clearly has a talent advantage and gap, but they let their foot off the gas for a majority of this game. And you just can't help but wonder if Steph Curry's here, how does this series look? Because I do think that Golden State
Look a little different.
I think Golden State has really made their half court offense struggle. And defensively, the Wolves look really lost on a lot of basic stuff. They're not playing connected or on a string at all. So, I think the goal for Golden State is to maybe win one of these next games and give Steph some chance at coming back. Just survive without Steph as long as possible. So maybe if it comes down to 2 games, he can win you those 2 games. If you're down 3 games to 2, that's going to be the goal for them. But overall, Minnesota, they're more talented and they got to take care of business. And this was too close of a game.
it was a tough game to watch. You go in there short staffed, you're missing basically your system, your whole offensive system. From start to finish, I thought Draymond didn't have a good game in general. Just in making the bad turnovers, just not being self-aware, just not he wasn't all the way balled in. And he got fouled out of the game. I thought 2 of them were kind of funky calls, but for the most part, wasn't locked in. Jimmy Butler was locked in. Kuminga was locked in. Steve Kerr, man, he's a wild guy. Deciding to just say, you know what, we can't shoot the ball without Steph. we're just going to hone in on 4 to 5 defenders and just attack the paint at will and just live and die by that. And it worked for a good portion of the game. For him to just pull that wild card out his pocket is why sometimes I have to hold my tongue on Steve Kerr, because his adjustments are truly amazing. And like I said, it worked for a portion of it. Like Jimmy Butler, Jonathan Kuminga, they were able to impose their will at the rim, just in terms of being aggressive. Kevon Looney gave you spot minutes that were really good defensive minutes. I thought he did a fine job on Randall when he was matched up with him one-on-one. This team is resilient. And like you mentioned, they were just able – I thought the three-point battle was probably the difference in this game. You mentioned Minnesota shot about 37, 38%. Golden State didn't take many threes. Definitely didn't make any threes anyways. So, they just went 2-pointers for 2s and 3s. I thought their defense has been pretty great on Minnesota for the most part, especially game 2 in spot minutes, game 1 for the majority of the game. And then game 3, outside of Ant-Man, having a firebomb of a second half, I thought they played him really well in the first half. And they've been really good defensively against this Minnesota team. And, you obviously you sit there and you wonder, what does this series look like if you have Steph Curry? But right now you just want to see them fight. And I think they are fighting. They're keeping themselves in the race. And like you mentioned, they have an opportunity to go into game 4 and potentially win that game. If you win that game, you make it very, very realistic for, Steph to come back and you're down 3-2 and you can make things possible. But just talking about this game, I thought Ant-Man woke up. And when Ant-Man woke up, you saw the talent discrepancy. Jimmy Butler did not score, I think, a field goal for the last 8 minutes of the game. They really honed in on him defensively. And then when Draymond Green got fouled out, at that point, you just knew Golden State didn't have enough in the tank in terms of their IQ, just how they run their offense. When Draymond went out, it was just going to be Jimmy. Kuminga started to get a little bit in his head, tried to be superhero. Buddy Hield tried to do the same thing. And sometimes you need Draymond and Jimmy out there to kind of, be the directors of the ship. But no Draymond. It puts a lot on Jimmy. And I thought he played great for the most part. But he's talked about it. He's the Robin, man. And you need Batman. But for the most part, Warriors play tough. They played tough basketball. You got to give them credit. Minnesota, you play you play who's in front of you. And Minnesota, like you mentioned, they can't let their foot off the gas. I think game 4, they need to come out more aggressive. They need to come out, take this seriously, and they should stomp Golden State in game 4.
Yeah, it's crazy to think what this series could look like with Steph Curry there. The fact that the Warriors were able to pull off game 1 without Curry is huge looking back on it now, because the Wolves are able to win back-to-back games. This one a little tighter than in game 2. But this really comes down to, in the second half, Ant-Man was a superstar, right? Ant in that first half has 8 points. He comes out super hot in the first quarter, 7 points, bang, bang. You're looking like, okay, this is the game. Ant is going to really come back, because these last few, he turned his ankle in game 2, but the last game, the Lakers, and game 1 here, he wasn't his normal self. And we know he has been one of the biggest playoff risers in the NBA. So after that first half, you're kind of wondering, like, all right, this is a close game. If Ant could come out here in that second half, we could have something. And they needed every single bucket they got, because down the stretch in this game, Golden State was able to constantly stay in it, even though the offense looked a little funky at times, right? When you were really, really relying on Kuminga, who was excellent in this game, but someone you haven't been relying on really throughout the entire season, and Pods, who is asked to generate offense at times. And of course, Jimmy Butler and Buddy Hield hit some threes, but the lack of offensive talent, I think, definitely stood out for this Warriors team. Kuminga and Jimmy Butler give you those 30-point games, which keeps this game close, but it was hard to just find consistent offense. And it's also surprising when I look at the plus minus that Rudy was a -5 in this game, because I felt like when he was in the game, it was a lot more difficult for the Warriors to get downhill. Jimmy Butler would get downhill. He would see Rudy there and he would take it out and try to find offense in other places, because I thought Rudy had a really good game, regardless of what the plus minus said. But I think Ant in the second half is what this Timberwolves team needed. 28 points, 4 for 6 in the fourth quarter, hit that big 3 in the corner that basically put the game to bed in the fourth. So he was, really the deciding factor, because down the stretch, like Riv mentioned, like Jimmy Butler, great statistical game, that 30-something points. But in that fourth, Ant-Man there was no one on the other side that was able to generate the buckets that Anthony Edwards was able to do. Of course, Julius, the triple double was huge. Jaden McDaniels was efficient 3 for 4 from three tonight. So the Timberwolves are able to get both of these games, and it sounds like minimum Curry's going to miss one more, probably two more games 4 and 5. And it does feel like kind of a must win going into game 4. You're going to go down 3-1 potentially. And it really feels like they're telling the media we're going to check on Curry, but he's not right. Like the hamstring is just not something you can really play with, especially a guy like Steph who's constantly running around. I feel like it's going to be difficult for him to come back, and you can't rush that because we know that could be, detrimental. We see what happened with a guy like James Harden a few years ago who really messed up his hamstring, and it feels like a few years later, it's still not the same. So I think you definitely have to be careful with him. And I wonder, how real it is that he could come back. So if you're able to buy yourself at least one more game, that a game 6 is possible, buy Steph a couple more days, because I don't think they're going to win another game as long as Steph Curry is out.
I don't think Steph is going to come back in this series. I think he's not going to play another game. They're not going to rush him at all. I think the biggest winner from tonight was Jonathan Kuminga.
Sign and trade, baby.
Jonathan Kuminga came in. He was asked to have a bigger role. He dropped 30. He kept the Wolves in it. I mean, he kept the Warriors in it for a large majority of this game and was awesome in it. Really driving to the basket and just having a ton of tough finishes. Jonathan Kuminga, he's still really young. He's still really talented. Him not playing and getting benched completely and iced out the Warriors lineup, I thought it really hurt any type of contract negotiation leverage he had in free agency. Him having this sort of game now kind of opens up that leverage for him to maybe go and pick his spot. I think there's going to be a team out there that's going to take a risk on Kuminga and say, you know what? The Warrior system is very strict. They want you to play a particular way. Let's get Kuminga in a place where he can just be more of himself and see if he thrives in that system. So I think the question for the Warriors really is, are you just going to let this guy walk? Are you going to do a sign and trade? Because it feels like if he does just walk, it was a missed opportunity from Golden State to get something back for a player that I still think around the league is viewed as a very talented player.
What do you think?
I think listen, if I'm going to State, you traded for Jimmy at the deadline. You've committed to Steph, Jimmy, and Dre for the next 2 or 3 seasons. I'm pretty sure you've established that Pods is going to be a part of this core with the older guys. No, yeah. Quinn Post is a guy you're probably going to keep around. He's getting paid like $1 million, so you probably keep him around. Buddy Hield's going to be a guy that you keep on the roster. You want to bring back somebody that's valuable. I think Jonathan Kuminga has to be in conversations to get traded, because if you're going to continue this whole not play him, then play him, then not play him, then play him, and if he doesn't fit around the system, which you keep saying, and he keeps wanting the bigger role, there's no sense of keeping him on the roster. Like you mentioned, Joel, there's going to be teams that's going to want Jonathan Kuminga. There's a lot of teams out there that's going to value what he brings or his potential, because it's still there. He still has talent. Teams like Washington, teams like Brooklyn, even teams maybe like Charlotte. So if you're Golden State, you cannot let him walk for nothing. And you can't just sign him back, give him all this money, and keep him. So you have to be very smart with this. Same thing with Moses Moody. He's been dog shit last couple games. So you got to figure out who do you want around your big three. Because I think, like you mentioned, Joel, if Steph doesn't come back for the series, that's fine. Because you don't want him to be all damaged up and then you lose him for next year. Because the way he plays, a hamstring injury would really, really hurt his game. So you just try to bring back good role players and gear it up for next season. I think what this half of the season shows you is Steph is still alive, Jimmy is still alive, and Draymond can still give you something. So, don't lose Kuminga for nothing, but don't keep him for nothing either.
Yeah, it seems like a sign and trade is inevitable because, Steph showed in the second half he still got it. Jimmy, the same thing. But it also showed the front office is that if we get vets that we know can play with Steph, or we feel very strong that can play alongside Steph, that's probably best for our team compared to the Jonathan Kumingas, and even guys, like Moses Moody, just some of these young guys that you're counting on more so, that if you could bring in vets that are more established, are going to be more consistent, and maybe fit in the system more. Even though Kuminga obviously has like real talent that could fit for this Warriors team, I just don't know if the Warriors don't want to commit fully to it and kind of change what their offense is looking like, which seems unlikely. Or they just don't trust the player because he can be inconsistent at times. We've seen Kuminga have these games before, right? This isn't the first time he's had some blow up game, but it's just never been consistent. And then, as you guys have mentioned, he's also had just some issues with the coaching staff. Of course, he's been wanting to get extended. So it feels like a sign and trade's inevitable. If you could bring in some vets to this team, to work alongside Curry, Draymond, Jimmy Butler, of course. That's probably best for both sides. And then Kuminga doesn't have to worry about where his minutes are going to come from. Is he going to play today? Am I going to be a DMP, or am I going to have to go out there and give you 30 in a playoff game? If he's able to play more consistently, there's a better chance that he could grow as a player too.
It's the weirdest thing ever that the Warriors, for as much as success as they've had, they just have been the worst landing spot for development for players. Like they're as bad as like a Hornets team at developing these young players, like Kuminga, Moody. I mean, James Wiseman. They really haven't been able to hit on any of their draft picks, and I think it's a big reason why the Warriors. You look up and down at the roster and say there's not a lot of talent here. You had prime opportunities and chances to get very talented players at those spots, and they just missed on all of them.
Yeah, they missed, I think, like 3 straight drafts. They missed.
Quinn Post looks like a hit.
Yeah, was he even drafted?
Was he UDF? He
might have been either undrafted free agent or a second round pick. I think he was an undrafted free agent.
He screams undrafted because no way he's good, and they drafted him.
They hit on these like late round guys, like these gems, but they're unable to.
He lost his spot in the rotation. He was a late pick. Yeah. It's really just been Pods for real. Like Pods is the one guy that's really just been him and Poole, but then Poole got traded. But it's really just been those two guys that have seen modest success.
Yeah. Well, that's going to do it for us. I see in the chat right here, this dude, his name is Dime Dropper. He's just firing off the anti-SGA chats. Joel thinks SGA is the best.
He said Joel said that SGA is better than Kobe.
I don't think I ever said that.
Nah, Kobe's his favorite player. He'd never say that.
Yeah, Kobe's untouchable for me, man. I put him over Jordan.
Kobe or Harden right now.
Kobe
or Luka.
Kobe
or
That's
Andy.
A lie.
Kobe.
He's so lying. He's so
lying. He's taken 4 of those players over Kobe.
He's sure
all 4 of them.
Kobe, man. Kobe. It's the reason why I got NBA 2K10.
I respect
Kobe
that.
Bryant.
He said Dom Dropper has his own pod. He's a YouTuber. I don't care what he is, man. I don't care. All right.
The Dime Dropper.
SGA.
Sounds familiar.
Hold him accountable, please. He's not good.
Predictions for tomorrow's games.
Who plays tomorrow?
Cavs, Pacers, and Nuggets, Thunder.
D Mitch 40 again. The boys is back. 2-2 heading back to Cleveland.
I got OKC and I got Cleveland.
I think I'll take Denver. I think Denver wins tomorrow.
Denver goes up 3-1.
Yeah.
I think both series get tied 2-2.
I would hope so. I love what we've seen so far.
I think this dude, this Clips in 5 dude is like no hate for Shea. Oh, Joel wants Shea.
Start hating on Shea. Like you hate on Tatum. Do it.
I mean, I recently just made a video on TikTok criticizing Shea.
Was it vulgar
his lack of playmaking?
Yeah, it's
very critical of Shea. So
he's a shooting guard, man.
He's not a true point guard. So I was very critical of Shea.
Why weren't you critical of Ant-Man when we were talking about? Like, why weren't you critical of Ant-Man?
When, just today?
No, because I remember we had a conversation. He was like, Ant-Man's a shooting guard. He doesn't need to play make. So why'd you make that video about SGA?
Because he plays point guard.
But is he really a point guard?
He plays point guard.
This guy's
Dallas is muted, yeah.
He's basically a point guard.
Yeah, he's supposed to be their point guard.
He's a shooting guard. They got to find him a real point guard.
Who do you want him to play alongside?
Cade Cunningham.
Okay.
SJ is a point guard who's like a very average playmaker, and I don't feel like he knows like how to feel out the game as a playmaker.
He's been a shooting guard his whole life, man.
Yeah, so I think OKC, I think they bounce back, and I think Cleveland ties up the series 2-2.
No troll, Dells. Would Trae Young and OKC be crazy?
I don't know. I don't think they need Trae Young.
Oh, I'm just saying, like, somebody to play against him, like point guard vibes, or like to a lesser degree. Like
I think
let's
a lesser
go.
degree for sure.
Darius
Just
Garland.
have Giannis.
'Cause
Just
I still
have
want Shea to. I want Shea to have the ball all the time. Like, why am I taking the ball out of Shea's hands?
Well, I want Shea to have the ball at the time too. And I also want him to pass the fucking ball sometimes.
yeah. So isn't that on him?
No, because look at realistically, look at the people who be on the court when he has to do some of the shit he has to do.
No, I'll be honest, dude. Like, I think the biggest fumble of the trade deadline period was OKC not going out and getting somebody established. In this series, they haven't played Isaiah Joe. They
Right.
really haven't played Aaron Wiggins. They play so little, and those are like guys that you thought you could rely on. Isaiah Joe really is just so bad defensively that they really can't have him out there. I felt like they really should have just went and gotten Cam Johnson. Like, it would have been a shooter. It would have been somebody that you can't leave open. You look at OKC's offense, there's just nobody that the defense is respecting from the outside. Like, J-Dub is getting left open. Chet is getting left open. Like,
Yeah.
everybody's getting left open. Lou Dort, obviously, and Isaiah Hartenstein is just occupying the dunker spot. So they really collapse hard on Shea's drives. Like, you look at whenever he drives, there's like 4 to 5 people in the paint, and then Shea is really not kicking out to the 3-point shooters because he doesn't really trust them. And I think sometimes he just doesn't see those passes. I just feel like they dropped the ball on just adding more shooting to this team.
One last thing I'll ask before we go. If you guys had to make a list, top 3, who would be your 3 favorites right now to win the finals? Celtics are down 2-1.
Cleveland
down 2-1. Cleveland's down 2-1.
Cleveland
Is number 1?
Yes. They're still number 1 to me. They haven't been healthy. They're healthy right now.
They are.
Cleveland, I'd go Denver. I'll still go Boston. But Minnesota's like right there. Minnesota's like really
the Thunder
right
are not in your top 4.
Well, if I had Denver.
No, I know, but I'm
Like if
so
I have
you think
Denver
Denver's
over
gonna
them,
win the series.
I'm assuming Denver's going to beat OKC.
Yeah,
so-
you
Okay.
did say you had them winning tomorrow, so that would make sense.
I got OKC. Then I have Denver. I have them 1 and 2.
Wow, okay.
And then I have the Knicks.
Wait, what?
The Knicks, okay.
Wait, how do you have both?
Because
He's basically saying
Whoever
whoever
wins
wins
the series.
is
Ah.
winning the title.
Oh,
Yeah,
so I thought you had Minnesota. You think? Whoa, wait.
Minnesota's half-court offense, I think they're going to make the conference finals, but their half-court offense has looked very bad against the Warriors.
Yeah, I mean, Warriors are
Tough defense.
we're better defense than Denver. Respect.
It is a tough
Thunder
defense.
is elite, but Denver,
But
you
yeah,
could,
OKC's
We have
defense
Draymond.
is
They don't
very
have
good,
Draymond, dude.
and Denver's defense has been much better. And I just think you got a healthier Jamal Murray this time around, and I think that matters. So I think Denver's peaking at the right time. That's why whoever wins between OKC and Denver, I think there's a real chance they're making the finals too.
Well, did you see somebody dropped when you made that Denver tweet? Somebody dropped you saying on the 19th that Denver's team sucked without Joker.
Yeah, it did. It did.
and now they're supporting cast as elite.
Yeah.
No, the supporting cast isn't bad.
Yeah,
No, it's not.
right.
I mean, Aaron Wiggins is playing like probably the best role player in the NBA right
Aaron
now.
Gordon.
Aaron
Sorry,
Gordon.
What'd I say?
Aaron Wiggins.
Yeah, I mean, it's not.
Oh,
I mean,
Aaron Gordon. Yeah.
we've seen in these playoffs that the Nuggets have won with 3 Jokic shooting stinkers, and I'm
Aaron
talking
Gordon
about like
playoff rising.
bad stinkers.
Playoff
And they've
rising.
won.
Yeah.
Jamal had 43. Like, this is a good supporting cast. This is like the exact same team that won the finals. You
I'll
know,
say this.
I just think they just play defense now.
Westbrook is volatile, so I won't say he's good or bad. I'll say he's whatever you gets that night. He's that. Peyton Watson, though, man. Woo. Defensively, that dude's a demon.
Yeah.
If he can hit,
Westbrook has been good.
no, he is.
Yeah.
He's Westbrook's still volatile. Like I'm not gonna just
You don't
wipe
trust
away.
him.
Well, yeah, I can't.
But he's been more on the positive
sure.
spectrum.
yeah this
is,
year.
This is the most I've trusted Westbrook in
Ages.
a long time.
Mhm.
A long time.
Yeah, I mean,
My
Westbrook.
my top 3, by the way. Sorry, Joel. My top 3.
Yeah.
Boston's number 1. Don't get it twisted.
Idiot.
Boston's number 1.
Be real, bro.
Number 2 is tough.
Knicks team.
Number 2 is tough because I still think the Thunder are going to pull it out.
Mm.
I would still have the Thunder 2. I would have the Cavs 3.
Respect this.
No love for Indiana. No love for the Knicks. No love for the
No.
Timberwolves.
The Nuggets are easily number 4. I think one of those 4 teams will win the championship.
And I see I see a chat from Truth Bearer. Nuggets, or I think he put that MPJ and Russell Westbrook are volatile, and it's true. Those are like the 5th, 6th guys on the team, though.
MPJ's hurt too, so I'll give him some grace.
I think if you go down on any team, the 4th, 5th guy is a little bit volatile. I think that's goes for every team right
Westbrook,
now in the playoffs.
what you really want is someone who their floor isn't so terrible, right? Like Westbrook gives you these high highs, but he give you those low lows. Like he could go out there and give you 29. He could play excellent defense, but yeah, man, when he's low, which he really hasn't been much at all in this postseason, not trying to say he is, we just seen that before.
Yeah, Westbrook's floor is like campaign, no troll.
It's a Nick legend, man.
Scooter is football, player A over SGA.
He's talking.
Whoever player A is.
You know who player A is.
Michael Jordan?
Tatum?
No. That's one of Tatum's nicknames.
Is it really? That's a terrible nickname.
We know that's not true then.
Nice. He's spitting.
It's not true. Well, that's going to do it for our time here on the live reaction. Make sure you guys like the stream, subscribe to the podcast, and follow us on Twitter at PickAsidePod and Instagram and TikTok at PickAsidePodcast. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.